The following is a paid advertisement for the Chicagoland Apartment Association and Marquette Management.
When renting an apartment home, you want to make sure you're dealing with a management company that will treat you fairly, provide great service, and take care of the apartment and the building. Look no further than this logo. All of the members of the Chicagoland Apartment Association are committed to building a better living experience for renters. One of those proud members is Marquette Management. We recently had a chance to sit down with their Executive Vice President, Jim Cunningham. Hi, Jim. It's good to have you here.
Great to be here.
So tell me why renting is a more appealing option for a lot of people right now.
It's really a peace of mind choice for people. They don't want to have to worry about cleaning their gutters out, cutting the grass, shoveling the snow. When they come home, they can worry about their lives and their family and not worry about doing all the mundane things. And with the economy the way it is, it gives them that sense of flexibility that they wouldn't have if they're tied down by the mortgage. This is really more about a lifestyle choice and not being tied down somewhere. The flexibility of going different places and doing different things.
And the convenience. Tell me about the C.A.N.E.I, this organization that you're a part of.
The C.A.N.E.I is a professional organization that Marquette was one of the founding members on in Chicago, and it provides training for members. It's a member-based program, and it also provides a seal, let's call it the Good Apartment Seal of Approval, when you see that on doors when you come up to the rent.
When the average person is looking for a management company, how can they distinguish the good ones from the not so good ones?
Well, some of it's homework they need to do. They need to look into how long that company's been in business. Are they a member of the Chicagoland Apartment Association? How do they feel when they get on that property? How are they treated? Do they feel like they're at home already? And you can get that from the minute you walk in the door.
Yeah, and I know that your company in particular really puts an emphasis on creating a sense of community. How do you do that, and why is that important?
Well, a lot of companies have pools, community centers.
Right.
What we have is connections to people. We try to create better lives for people through community involvement. By design, we set up a charity. We're one of the founding members on the Institute for Community. There in itself is what we're all about. Creating a family, creating an environment, that real connection to that where you're living, where your family is, where you're breaking bread with people is so much different with us at Marquette than other companies, because we really believe in that catering to that special part of your life.
Okay, great. And how can people get in touch?
Get in touch with us at marquettemanagement.com.
Okay, great. Thank you so much for being here, Jim.
Thanks.
For distinctive apartment homes, Chicagoland's most desirable locations, and world-class comfort, visit marquettemanagement.com.
For the style of having homes
And the reason I did that, besides my mom loves that video now, sent it to everybody in my family, that it was a year ago today that video was done for us. We did it as part of the C.A.N.E.I, part of our belonging with that and trying to promote the C.A.N.E.I. But really, what was most interesting, what you didn't see if you didn't see the other companies that did it, they all focused on that great sparkling pool or that great high-rise that they're doing, or that door service. Where what's different about us, and what part of what we're talking about today is our journey into good to great as we continue it, is what sets us apart. What really sets us apart from the everyday property management company. And I really think a lot of it is everybody in this room. And something we're going to talk about a lot today in terms of our culture and some of our successes. So it wasn't complete self-praise having that up there, but it was just an illustration of, are we better, all of us here today, are we greater this year than we were last year? Have we moved the meter? Individually, have you moved that meter? So those are some of the questions I'm hoping we can answer today on that continuing journey from good to great. Good to great. We have 2 new BDs now that we didn't have last year. Hopefully, from a capacity standpoint, that's going to help all of us. And one of the keys to that is that capacity. first off, I have to apologize for everybody in this room, except for those in Murray, really, is we went too long having 3 BDs. You know, shame on us. What they were not able to do, those 3, which they did a tremendous job. What they were able to do is tremendous, but they didn't allow for the development of you individually or the properties. In a lot of cases, we were just fighting fires. We weren't moving ahead. We weren't getting as far to greatness as we could get. So when we brought Brandy on, it's relatively short, so hopefully we'll see some greatness out of her. God, I hope so. And really the next step for us and what we're modeling and looking at now is when do we start that 5th PD? When I look at, when you look at who has got what properties, even with, and understanding, another piece we have to understand is we can't just dump three other properties on Brandy and give her something in Chicago when we've got so much attention on the Texas market. We want to kind of preserve that capacity for our growth in the South and the Southwest. So where is that other in Denver? Where is that other growth that we're going to have, and at what point do we add that 5th BD, and where do we add it? Now, I tell you that because it's an important part of that good to great focus that we have and that journey that we're going on to is understanding what you guys need, what you need as those team members. And I can tell you, we are almost at that spot. You know, our hope is in the next couple months we've got Nick and Darren will probably talk a little bit more about this, but we've got 2 or 3 properties we're working very heavily on now. We're getting ready to close the financing on Catalyst, which will be our first downtown development project. At least, I don't know if Marquette's ever done a downtown development project. Trevor? Have they? Nope. So that's exciting. We're also looking at a property in South Bend, Indiana. One of our old friends, Amy Lewis, is the manager there still. So wouldn't that be funny if, I think she would probably kill herself if she would want to come back with us, but that'd be like the 3rd time, it'd be like a record. And another one, Oswego. So right there, 3 other properties, not to mention the 2 in development, Randall Highlands, which we didn't highlight here because they're not an employee yet, at 146 units, and Algonquin Square, which is 226, or is it 300? 224, up in the Algonquin area. So looking at all of that, just adding a 4th BD, we already see that there's a capacity issue that we need to address. Also part of that good to great, we added Marissa this past year, the staff group. One of the things we were looking at as we saw this, the smaller size properties, those under 200 units, we're struggling a little bit with finding that Judy, that Danielle, that Harish, that can do these large properties, but also have to be able to lease. So, not that those 3 couldn't absolutely do that. Well, all right. 2 of the 3 can probably do that, but in general, at a larger property, an accountant literally doesn't have the time to do it. At even a 300 unit or less property, we have a capacity issue where they have to be able to lease. So part of our C.A.N.I, constant narrating and improvement, we brought Marissa on to try to find a way that we can work on these smaller size unit properties that makes sense, that we can have that person that might have a core operational sense, but also can lease. Also, we brought Mary from beautiful Fairlane to be back at our corporate office. That was one of the challenges we had, that we had this excess capacity there. Not that saying she wasn't very busy, she was. But how does that create greater capacity in staff? So part of that good to great is us looking at, from a structural standpoint, where MMI, where we are to support you, our customers. Because truly, you are the most important people in this room, without a doubt. Because nothing else happens without you. The rest of us are all, our org chart is upside down, different than other companies. I'm at the bottom of the bottom, Darren's really at the bottom. He's at the bottom. The rest of you are really all on top. How do we support you? Good to great. This past year we had 4 new senior managers. Completely different than we had the year before. Interesting about that, 3 of those 4 senior managers are no longer with the company, so I guess that wasn't a great start with the senior manager program. But what we have in Christine, Jim, Leanne, and Mandy is tremendous operational support. We lean heavily on from the M&I support, and what it is for you guys is another conduit to go to use in terms of resources and things like that. I don't know how many times Ron has complimented Leanne about her support of him. Naturally, I think Leanne's wired that way, but what a great acknowledgement for them. We started our first, we're just starting our senior accountant program in the same vein with Danielle, Judy, and Cece, where we're going to start seeing the same kind of things coming out of them, really focusing on what those systems are, how we can do better, and how we can expand our staff group is 15 people. Just to give you an example of the differences in companies, and I think some of you are aware of this, I ran a similar size company in terms of employees, about 280 employees at my last company, and a little bit more in assets, probably double in assets. We're about $1 billion in assets. We're probably a little bit over that right now. They were about $2 billion, but there were more accountants at my last company than we have all of staff group, and really even combining Marie offices. So we're getting tremendous amount of work done for the people that we have. But the challenge is, how do we expand and how do we grow these great individuals and cultivate that next level of leadership on the property? And it's really through these programs like the senior accountant program and the senior manager program. And I think it's really important that as I was looking over all of our properties, a third of our managers, third of you in this room have almost only been with us a little bit over a year or less. A third. The great thing about that is we have all that new energy, all that new excitement, all those new ideas that we can bring to this company. Sometimes when a company like ours is so great, we have less than 25% turnover, which is unheard of in this industry. Now, if you do the math into third, that's 33%, but understand that we acquired some properties, and there's always, if you're 25%, somebody's going to be a little higher, somebody's going to be a lot lower. The great thing about that is all that great new energy and all that great excitement, the Zachs of the world, the Rons of the world, Amy coming back, all these great individuals that have come to our company bring new ideas and bring new energy. But the core of what we have are the Leannes, the Jim Adantes, the Heathers. I can go on and name every single long-term manager that we have. That core that we have is really where all our strength comes from, because they're able to give us a sense of history and a sense of support in some of these markets that we wouldn't have with a new person coming in. So the great part about this continued journey is we're getting that new blood in, mixed in with people that are our standard bearers, and we're able to create even more value. When you see some of the numbers that Sandy's going to present today, it is incredible, the numbers that we're seeing coming out of these properties. And one of the guys that I worked for, who was an absolute nightmare, I learned probably the most from him, always said that if you're doing great, it's your market. If you're doing bad, it's your people. There's something to be said for that. But when you're doing this good, it is your people. The market takes care of a lot of things, but that extra 2 or 3% is really what makes the difference from a profitability standpoint, even from a company's profitability standpoint, and on. So, and another thing I think that third illustrates is, I'll use a football analogy. They talk about rebuilding years, like Michigan. They got spanked by Alabama in the beginning of the year, and then they lost their bowl game. So I'm sure they're talking right now about rebuilding. Then you look at Ohio State, for example. They were thank you. 12-0. No, they didn't technically go to a bowl game. And it's a bad analogy. It's for the Michigan people, and I know Jason loves Michigan, so I have to throw that in there. Oh yeah, I know they lost, but that was overtime. I was talking about football. But one of the things that illustrates is a lot of those companies you hear about rebuilding and retooling, we really reload. If you think about that how rare is it for us to, it's incredible when you look at the talent of the people that we get. Now, some of you might say it takes forever, but isn't it worth it? Everything, nothing worthwhile is easy. And when we find that right person, it makes such a huge difference on the bottom line of what we're able to do. When you look at from, example would be, and we might use Zach's name a little bit too much since he's not here, so too bad for him. He was plopped down with one of the hardest, newest equity partners we could possibly manage, and he really brought it. Brand new manager, Gary was able to support him, but the quality of that person is what the key. And the culture index, if we can love or hate it or whatever, the tool it is, it gives us valuable information.
By the way, Zach said, hey now.
Oh,
he's online, yeah.
Good. Get back to work at Lisa Carmen. Good to great. This past year, we saw two of the founding partners leave us in the form of Rick and Bruno. One could say we had a transitional year this year, or one could say we're going to have a transitional year this year. Again, I really think we're more evolutionary, on an evolutionary trip. How is our company evolving? How are we going from good to great? Where we're taking, it's the same analogy, we're taking all that great history and that great core that we've learned, how do we make it our own? As we really move towards that, what does that new Marquette look like? And you guys are new Marquette. We've got partners involved, a different ownership structure at the top, and no more different than Rick and Bruno leaving. We've got Nick, who is absolutely the standard bearers for a company. We have that basis, but what are we going to do with it? What am I going to do with it? And Trevor and Darren and things like that. Where are we taking this? And part of that discussion is, how large do we want to be? Where is that? And Nick will talk a little bit about that. Where is that sweet spot for us? Is it 15, 16,000 units or 20? Is it 30 or 40? Now, I will tell you, most of you here, I really believe, and some of us believe, it is in that 15 to 20,000 unit range. My concern, when I first came here, I wanted $30,000, $40,000. 30, 40,000. I'm doing great, guys. Units, and that was where I really thought that would be the most fun. But when I really started thinking about it after meeting all of you and being immersed in this wonderful culture, I just realized once we get to that 20 or over, I might get to do this, but I don't get to spend time with one person on site then, or it's these quick blow-throughs, and I have to ask the person next to me, what's that person's name? What's that person's name? When I'm not perfect by any means, but I've got about 90% of the employees I can say hi by name. Now, I do have cheat sheets with everybody's name on them, so sometimes that helps, but you get to that bigger level, I can't make an impact on a site, and as we continue to talk, our culture is that important, it would be so difficult for us to maintain that as we grow that much more. We are going to see a big shift once we hit 15,000. Because what worked at 5,000, we all know it didn't work at 10,000. So as we're going from that good to great, how do we evolve that? How do we continue that? Part of that is what our commitments are for this coming year. And I've got 2 commitments that staff week and the rest of us are going to be working on this year. And a week cater service. This past year, we're finally rolling out our 24-hour maintenance response guarantee. Truth be told, I told everybody I did it in my last company, and I really did, but it was 48 hours. but I knew we were better than that, so I made it 24. So, see, I know. But that speaks to the quality of the people here and our ability to do things that others can't do. And that new thing it's just a rehash of what other people are doing, but it's going to be a project for our senior managers, and maybe some of you in this room, is to look at how do we package something for our residents that are seniors, that 60 and over person. How do we package something that we can say that you live with us, hey, there's certain things we do for you. Hey, maybe we'll give you 5 days of pay. Because I want to move it all that rent's due on the 1st or the 2nd, so just FYI, that's coming. Are they the first one we shovel their walk for? Do we do valet trash for them in absence of valet trash service so that they can do that? Creating value for them so we can put another little logo or something on our website saying, hey seniors, this is what you get when you live in a Marquette property. So that's one of our initiatives for this coming year. And really the other two are training, and you've heard this a million times, and we're really going to do it this time, and I'll tell you a little bit more about that, and culture. Now it might be funny for some of us to hear, how is culture an initiative? As we talk a little bit more, there is absolutely nothing more important that we're going to talk about today than that. Because 95% of us in this room are here because of that. How you feel on those properties, how you feel you're being treated. What this company is all about, the reason I'm here is because that's what I was sold when I came here, and they sold me very well. I mean, I go back to my analogy from last year. You know, we've got some gulpers in here, Kool-Aid gulpers and Kool-Aid sippers, but it doesn't matter as long as we're drinking. Which is, I'm sorry. For some of you, I know that's really important. That'll be a tonight, the first hour, the whole happy hour. Thank you, meditation. But to really, on the training side, to really go into that, we have something called MSAM. Some of you have heard about it. Some of you have no idea what that is. It's Marquette School of Advanced Management. We really want to recreate that this year and make it real and viable. We've been trying for so long to make an online platform that really works. And Mindy, who's really spearheading this, found a company called Training Factor. Managers and supervisors, you'll hear about the soft rollout on this at our March meeting. And this kind of coincides with one of the successes I think we had last year in terms of rolling out new initiatives. When I first came here, one of the things that I kept hearing from everybody is, please do not roll out 12 different initiatives and throw them out there and do it wrong, or we'll scrap it, or it's still monkeying and running along. We at least committed last year to making YieldStar our core initiative, and I will tell you, I think it's been very successful. I think for the first time we didn't roll it out to the masses right away. We took our time. We were helped by finding the right partner with that. Because I think a lot of you agree, YieldStar has tremendous training. They give a lot of training and a lot of support. We want to take that use that same model for any initiative that we really have. And Training Factor is going to be that model for us this year. And as we look at training, I want to talk about some areas that we're great at. I think leasing training, we're pretty great at it. I think Claudia is really taking that to the next level. But it's also one of our most important, because if we don't get people in the door, we don't close them. That's seemingly most important. I think our accounting training, where we've got somewhere to go in terms of having that online platform. And part of the training factor is an online platform for all these courses. Ability for us to track certifications and when things are due, leasing licenses. It gives us the ability, if somebody scores a 60 or let's say an 80 on their shopping report, we can just say, hey, you did not do very well on the phone portion. You're required to go online and take our phone. A lot of these courses are online. So it'll help us with that. And also part of inside that initiative is where we've been based so much on depends on who you talk to and the number of systems that we have. Some people say we have 22 systems. Some people would say we have 27. I'm not exactly sure how many systems we have. That being the case, we decided one of the initiatives that we have is really creating, through Training Factor, a digital SOP manual in some extent, so that there's a way you can click on there how to move somebody in, and it'll take you to what we're creating. We're working on that now with a lot of the senior managers and some other managers, accountants and things like that. So we can have this warehouse where easier way to find it, and it's a one-stop shop. We've got training in there, we've got our SOP stuff, and we have other related things to training. Back on the accounting training, Insanity is right. Well, when I really came into this company and continue to see it, that is the rock which was when we built our company on, accounting. And when you have people like Danielle training people, it's tremendous what we get out of that. We don't have a lot of churn on our accountants, and they're really, so we don't have as much to do on the training side for that. Maybe just more, I know Marissa has been working on, accounting for dummies. Somebody like me, if I would want to step in and which would never happen, by the way, ever. But an accountant wants to go on vacation. Marissa is working with, I believe, Christina as well and don't take this wrong, managers, for some of you. Accountants for dummies. If an accountant's out, accountants should be able to have a great vacation and not worry about what they're going to come back to, and be able to take a vacation. If we have a place or a training material in place where, hey, I can do this, maybe with a little work, and you got to remember and things like that. Not everybody has got it locked down as Tracy and Grace, the work husband, where it's never an issue. But for the rest of us, or the other third or 2/3 of us, we need that support. So this will be part of it. I think our manager is very solid. Christina Fuente has done a number of those this year, but we've also tapped different people that weren't in it, with Tracy, with Brandy at 1401. I think that's very good, but there's a long way that we have to go there as well. There are better, more systematic ways we can do it, because one of the challenges you have when we have multiple trainers is everybody training the same way? Does everybody understand the same way? And the BDs are behind that, but they're not just saying, hey, I know you train that way, but we're going to do it this way. As we grow, that's one of the things we have to be able to, we have to have that consistency. That worked fine when Rick was the regional BD and we had 6 or 8 properties. It doesn't work when we have 32, 34 properties. And it won't work when we're at 40 properties. And where that really leads us to is one of the biggest misses we've had as a company is one of our most important groups. Part of one of our greatest tenets is our We Care program. Customized attention to every resident. And the people that touch them the most, our maintenance guys, are the single one group. When you look at our online platforms and everything that we have, there's almost nothing, no support for them. We do train new service managers, but what we really hope is we hire the Chucks of the world that have been doing it a long time, and it's, hey, this is just a different box, fix it. We can't always rely on that. And it's not fair for us to not give other tools to those service managers and to those technicians, other training tools and other vehicles to do that. We're working on that this year with Wilmar. I recently saw a thing that Ron is rolling out and working with the Michigan properties with their equivalent to the CAA in Michigan, where there's more training there. But that has been a huge miss for us. Part of our commitment to that, along with Training Factor, is we are working on hiring a director of maintenance that will really work on and be focused on those service managers, that team development and training systems for our property, and systems that we are world class, that we are going from good to great in our turnovers, in our preventive maintenance, which is, as everybody knows in here, we all shake our heads how important that is. But you'd be surprised still where we're at right now, that it is hit or miss. There isn't that consistency. But shame on us of having 3 BDs for so long and not having that real support on that direct maintenance side for those maintenance supervisors. That's all part of the whole picture, and further coordination with CapEx and things like that. There's, the challenge we've had is my prod is one person, and if you have a deal like Woodfield Crossing, that has consumed him in addition to doing other things. It's not fair to Mike for where he's at with the company. It's not fair. It's really not fair to the service managers and the property managers for all the things that we have not been able to give you as our customers. So that's a really important part of this whole training concept that we really want to get to. We've talked about this for years and years, but this is a commitment now. We've got the platform in place, and we'll have it in place. Now we get to see where we're going to be next year as we continue on this good to great journey. Good to great. Also part of the training is our communication and accountability class. As you know, Rick's been teaching that forever. I don't know exactly how long we've been doing that class, but let's just call it forever. When Rick was no longer, and Rick retired. I mean, he is retired. I tell you how much I tried to get him back because he was so powerful. So many of you that had him in class, he's so powerful at teaching. But there is that he wanted to fade away. We couldn't even get him to a going away party to say thank you to him. So getting him back for our class was going to be impossible. We tried to use the company that trained Rick and Bruno when this all started to come in and do an accountability class, and I was part of that class. And we failed miserably at that. That did not work. It was a good failure. It's I think one of the greatest things about this company and people that are successful is you learn so much more from your mistakes than you do your successes. We learned, Mindy and I, there were 2 big components missing. They didn't know our business, so they couldn't tie in. The concept of accountability, she could have taught us all day long, theoretically, what does accountability mean? But how it lives within us and how we look at it as an industry, she couldn't make that connection. And also the bigger piece was she had no connection with anybody in that room. She had no idea that Judy at Winbrook hated our checklists and things like that, and why do we have to do that? And then in the simple meeting, I said, if that doesn't work for your team, and that's something you have to do. She couldn't communicate that or even know what a checklist was. So, he and Laura are going to be trained to do the classes. We are going to have communication and accountability classes. It'll be a different spin, and I think that's a great thing too. As we look at this new Marquette, in hindsight, my desire to have Rick was laziness on my part, maybe, because we could just keep having him do his whole spiel, and he did a great job on it. But that doesn't speak to where we're going in New Marquette. And with Laura and Mindy, and there's a great balance there, and very passionate people. A newer person in the company, Laura, and this old school here, and Mindy, being able to create those synergies and have those contacts. And these are 2 people that, if they haven't touched every one of you in some way, will continue to, more than, I could not think of anyone in this company that would be better suited. I will plug in to the extent that I can. My capacity for staying in a 2-day event is, hence why leadership is 1 day now, technically, is very difficult. But what they will bring to it will be absolutely huge. Now, one class that we are going to restart as well is our culture class. That is, I think, without a doubt, if we all espouse, and I think a lot of us do, how important our culture is to us, then why have we let that one class go? I got the benefit, I guess you would say the benefit of sitting with Rick and Bruno for 4 days straight when I first started here. So I got a really idea of what the culture meant. But what I didn't understand was this language we have. The Mary Casey, the Lori Casey's of the world can, when we're talking about breathing into it and becoming what's called for, there's this whole language that you have to learn to survive. So that being the case, as we bring out that culture, and for them to see someone like myself and Mindy and Laura, and as we pull in the rest of you in this room into those classes, that a new employee really sees how that breathes in us and how important it is. And part of that, you know, my next step here is I'm going to roll into the other part of our commitment is on our core values. With that culture class, it's kind of that start with it. And a lot of you know we added accountability as a core value last year. It was 11, and now it's 12, and that worked out because 12 months in a year, maybe we can do something with that. And I can't tell you how many people I talked to, and I said they thought accountability was already a core value. So how appropriate for us to make it. But one of the challenges that we have to have in terms of core values, another thing that we're changing and redoing is the culture committee. We had this wonderful committee that Christina Putman chaired. As we looked at it further, we realized the committee ended up being, hey, let's get this newsletter out every quarter. Let's help with the ranch. So it wasn't speaking to how do we keep that essence of what Nick, Rick, and Bruno created 30 years ago. This wonderful culture. How do we keep that essence and maintain it, grow it for our continued journey, our good to great journey, and making this our new Marquette? How do we do that? That was the miss on that committee. Now, Mindy is, as you can see, I keep saying this word Mindy. I'm surprised it's not two people at this point. We're going to recreate that committee. What we're going to do is we're going to be smart about it. What do we want to accomplish? We already kind of always said that. What we want to accomplish is how do we maintain this thing is so integral to our company and evolve it and create it and make sure it breathes on every property. And breathe in different ways, because it will. It'll breathe differently at a Portofino under Zach than it will at Heather and downtown Denver. And certainly whatever Dante does with those people with you, I don't know. It's alive and well there, let me tell you. So, and culturally, you know, part of that is, you know, some of the other things that we're committed to. I recently sent out an open door policy. That's part of what we've always been, but it might have been a little more extreme than some of you read into it than what it really is that ability for you to give your input and talk to anybody you want. And shame on you if you don't say, Jim, you know, that was not where you were Kennedy. Or I don't like where you're going with that. No one can ever be in a bad spot with me or anybody in this company by giving their opinion. You might not like what you hear from me, or agree with me. But that's the beauty of our company and what we have to continue to maintain and create. Some failings that I had this past year in regards to that is a year ago I committed to going back to every property and having those sit-down lunches. I think I made 4 in 2012. That will not happen this year. And truthfully for me, it feeds me like you would not believe, seeing these great people and being able to spend an hour with them, hearing about how are we doing, where are we going, where would you like to go, and how can I help you with that? Because, you know, truthfully, you guys are all my customers, everybody in here, except Nick. He's not really my customer. He is here. So, and also the Bright Idea program. Thank you all for those of you who submitted it. And I've been bad about responding to them. We've got this great technology Ryan Bernicke worked up, so it's all supposed to work perfectly, and yet I've let it languish. This quarter we will get that back on, where we are talking about recognizing those great ideas, how can we make it, and then subtly telling some people, hey, it's not going to happen. Jim and Dante's idea about personalized golf carts with their names on it for the managers, it's not going to happen. Next part, before one of the things I wanted to close with is reading off the definition of core values, and giving you an idea of when I went over these core values, who came to mind. A lot of times I'm a visual person, so if I could put a face with a name or a picture with a value in this case, it gives me a better understanding for me how I do it. I could put literally every one of your pictures on every one of these values in some different way or shape or form. Can't do that. So as I go through this, I want to do that. But I also want to give a special acknowledgement. I've been here, I think, 19 months now today or so. Some of you probably noticed that I write a lot of notes down. And it helps me remember what people said or how they presented themselves and things like that. And we had a mini leadership in July of 2011. And for those of you who were there, there's something about every single one of you on that. Now, staff group got it even worse. They had individual interviews that I did with them and had whole pages of stuff. And there were people that I had on my little list. I went, I don't know if they're going to make it. And then there was one person I said, I don't like that person. I don't think I'm going to ever be able to work with them. Now, truthfully, being able to say that now, it is kind of funny because I wasn't that ingrained in the culture that I didn't get our world. Woo. So, as I did, and you see the incredible value in a lot of these people, you know, I'm ashamed to say that I had that thought. Now, at some point, I don't know if it was an aha moment or all of a sudden I turned around and said, I could not survive without that person on my team. And when I look at these values, I am telling you, I do not believe there's another person in this company that embodies literally every single one of these every day like this person does. It shocks me sometimes. Their ability to do this, and this is not even believes in everything that every one of these stands for. So this is my very long acknowledgement of Mindy Helms that. And truthfully, it was. Now she still irritates me. Let me tell you, like every other day. But it really speaks to when you look at its first impressions of people, and part of it was my unbelievable arrogance that I had at the time when I was here. It's not exactly not that unbelievable now, but for us to move that, and she wouldn't give up. I'm sure there were times in that first. Those interactions was but I really could not move forward. I would not want, and I could say a lot about most of the staff group, all of staff group really. We're such a tight group. It shocks me how well we get along and how far we move from that good to great. So that being said, I want to be able to read for you the core values. C.A.N.E.I. Constant and never-ending improvement calls us to build capacity by constantly reassessing and improving our systems, procedures, and policies in our quest to reinvent property management by creating extraordinary returns, raving employees, and legendary customer service. Now, I use Claudia, and a quick real story about Claudia. I remember when I was first there, first with the company, I walked around with Rick, and Tracy was the manager, and I just said, I told Tracy this, I didn't think she was right for this company. I just didn't feel it there. And a lot of you can't see it because you can't see what really she's done in recreating the training on the leasing side. And again, Brenda, there's 10 of them in here that I can say this about. But she really, I think, really, for me, is what it really stood for. Decentralization, removing layers of bureaucracy, which allows us to serve our customers more quickly and effectively, encouraging empowerment at the point of customer interaction. This was somewhat of a laydown, unfortunately. inherently there's 15 of us in the staff group. If we don't embody and believe in that decentralization, nobody can. Because we cannot do it without you guys. So we have to focus everything we have because of our limited resources, how we can do it more efficient. You know, how can Brian or Rob reach you and fix those computers remotely when they know that we don't have staff all over the place and as far out as we are. So really staff group inherently, because of their position in staff group, has to be the best at that. And all they have to do, they have to continue to think about that. So we can't add staff on the property to help staff group. We have to figure out a way to do it. Relationships. Building relationships based on trust, respect, increases our accomplishment and fulfillment. Our company reaches its full potential and creates win-win partnerships through our contribution and mutual support. I think a lot of you would agree that Laura Miller, and if there's a relationship person in our company, it is absolutely her. I think her new role in marketing will be even more critical. She is amazing when it comes to working with vendors, site staffs, staff group itself. And for her, it truly is all about the relationship. She's trying to understand, hey, we're here, you're there. How can we get together? How can we create that value through this relationship? And even if it doesn't make us any money or it's a neutral thing, how does that move us forward? And through that relationship, are we planting a seed where 6 months from now, hey, that person that she met somewhere and was talking up Marquette becomes a great employee, or even better, a new equity partner. Empowerment. Our environment provides the opportunity to be our own authority, which encourages self-expression and environment to fulfill our potential as employees and human beings. First off, anyone see Zoolander? Isn't that like cold steel? That is like the greatest picture anyone has. Zach. I'm sorry. I'm not supposed to do humor. Somebody else is going to do that today. But Zach was put in a situation, I told you this before, the most challenging equity partner I think we've ever had. Some of us, even in our careers, in terms of how they've pushed us. And this young man, being in a standalone property in a market where we have no other support, and it being his very first manager's position. Poor Gary basically put his job on the line saying, this is the right guy. And he really has taken that ownership and that empowerment to a different level. Quality, standard uncompromisingly upheld above the rest, which fosters the ability to change people's lives by increasing the value of what we offer. And I really thought Lisa Schomburg embodied this when you look at this. Now, I can go to any property. I'm proud to go on any property. There's never a piece of trash on Lisa Schomburg. So it's stem to stern in terms of that level of quality. No resident complaints. Now, maybe they're afraid of Tracy. I am personally, but maybe the residents are too. But it speaks to the overall quality. I mean, one of the best accountants, best managers. It's all there, and it's creating tremendous value. We use Lisa Schomburg as an example in our pitch books to get management as a case study of what Monta Huge Lincoln did and what Tracy was able to do in a very short period of time. So when I think of quality and what really encompasses that, I thought Lisa Schomburg was my quality monitor on that. Legendary customer service. Exceeding customers' expectations by using creativity and sound business judgment in all situations. Woodfield Crossing. When you consider where they came from, and you're going to see this in the financial side, Sandy's got some great numbers. The tremendous value that was created, but the only reason it was created is their level of customer service is exceptional. The number of units they have, the fact that they went through a transition from a re-tenanting of an entire property, and when you look at that and you understand the challenge of that clientele in some cases, half of 1% complaints. A property of that size with that clientele, it's impossible not to get complaints. we get so few, is statistically insignificant, and half of 1% is high, probably, when you consider the potential for complaints at that place. I mean, the building's falling in. We got no complaints to the corporate office that this building, we had to shore up the basements and all. That's a huge compliment. So when we really look for what is legendary customer service, you have to look at that tremendous staff there and that team that Jim's created with everybody. Profitability enables our existence, promotes our culture, exceeds ownership expectations, and fosters our ability to make a difference and legitimize our success. Profitability allows us to continue to create new and innovative programs that benefit our customers. This was another kind of a laydown. Leanne. When you see the financial numbers there, you're going to see Signature Club there. You're going to see Park Place. What you won't see is what she's been able to do in a relatively short time at Club of the Eye. The fact that one person that isn't a BD can touch 3 properties in that way, I am not diminishing Ron's the world what all he had to do, but when you consider that she was so integral with Park Place and maintaining that and continuing that, so Ron can take it good to great, and you guys don't know half the stories in Club of the Eye. The mere fact that it is still open has got to be attributed to Leanne at some point. So, and that we're at a point where we're able to refinance that hopefully sooner than later and be in a position where it can continue to be successful. So that was a great, obviously you guys can tell I've saved my acknowledgments to the end of my program. So, but it was a great way for me to really get my head around what profitability means and looks like. Making a difference. Making a difference is our purpose for existence and the essence behind each of our goals. Which is a pretty big statement because that encompasses all of what our core values mean and what we want to do as a company. And this was a very easy one to be. I thought the High Point staff, what Christina and her team, when you see their engagement with the community there, it is unbelievable. And they're not just touching our residents. They're touching other people that are part of the CLA. It helps. They have this big, huge community center and things like that, and the IFC is driving some of this. But I'm telling you, the IFC would fail without High Point Net staff. It could not exist without their support. They volunteer after hours on their own dime, wrapping gifts, and they don't care who comes in and wrap gifts. They'll help anybody that comes through there. So their ability to touch people's lives and make a difference in people's lives is tremendous, especially since it's not a standalone community. It isn't just our residents. So I thought that was, for me, a great example of what making a difference is. Development, the process of continually evolving professionally and personally, and listening to hear what the circumstances are and altering behavior to become what's called for. Very Marquette. Before I click to this person, I have seen such tremendous growth out of this person over the last 18 months since I've been here. Coming from, wasn't part of the first round of senior managers and then became a senior manager. If you hear some of the stories and the challenges this person had going from one property to the other, and listening to what her employees wanted from her, and what she could do for them. When I look at everything else, now, remember, and I keep qualifying this, there's 8 of you out there right now I'm thinking the same thing about. But for me, this person really exemplified what I think development means, both personally and professionally. And that's Mandy. I just think that she has just come, since I've been here, a long way. But, you know, a lot of that comes from when I hear Lori talking about her and saying, hey, these are some of the challenges we have. This is what she decided to do. So it is a very meaningful way for me to understand development. Ownership. Taking responsibility for what you say and do in a way that reflects who you are and evidence to the world what you believe in and stand for. First and foremost, we're all business owners charged with running a multi-million-dollar business, fully participating in being responsible for whatever is required to create and maintain a successful enterprise. This one was one of those where it really spoke to the financial pieces and the holistic approach that we take to management. And though this is a newer person in our organization, I've already seen what he's able to do and hopefully what he'll continue to do. And that's Rob Presbury. So, and for those of you that don't have Rob, he's kind of funny, he's kind of sarcastic, so you'll get used to him after a while. He's more of an acquired taste than some of your love right away. But from an ownership standpoint, he looks at how can I make this better? How can we move that needle financially? How can we go from good to great at every single property that I touch? So for me, it was another great example. Accountability, defining and understanding expectations and meeting or exceeding those expectations earlier than was expected and at a higher quality level than was anticipated. Another easy one for me. This person absolutely excelled this past year. Working with, I won't call it an absentee manager, but maybe I will. Because we tasked that person with other projects and things that they were doing as they were growing in their career path. But this was a person that was there, was accountable, made sure that things ran, things happened, all the while training other people, becoming involved in other projects, and becoming one of our senior accountants. And that's Danielle. I just thought she was really so impactful this last year as Laura, and Laura, sorry about calling you an absentee manager, but you were. That she was there. She was, and you didn't hear her complaining. Now, I personally feel it was my input that allowed her to stay, and she did not leave the company when she was thinking about it, but that might not be true, but I'm taking credit for it. But it's one of those exceptional people, and how can you not have one of your great accountants on accountability? My goodness, it'd be counterintuitive. Fun. The ability to take what we do seriously while not taking ourselves too seriously. Appropriately placed fun reduces stress, creates a sense of belonging, and increases productivity and creativity. This was another one of those laydowns, though there are a lot of you in this room that can exemplify this, but if there is and there is a standard bearer in our company of what fun is all about and making things fun, and so much positive energy comes out of this person. Quite frankly, it makes me tired sometimes. I have no idea how this person's able to do it day in, day out, year in and year out. And I understand he's been this way his whole life. And this was really a laydown. Our vaunted leader, Nick. That is our last core value. What I'm hoping we get out of this is we are still on the good to great. This is our mantra. This is where we're going. How are you guys going to make us get there? Individually, how are you going to get there? As a company, how are we going to get there? Do not be afraid to tell us when we're going down the wrong path. And shame on you if anybody in this room diverts from what our goals are and our commitments are and what our culture is. Because truly, when it's all said and done, that's why we're all here. That is what it's all about. So, are we better this year than we were last year? Yeah. I say yes. I want to be better next year than we are this year. So, why don't we all take a break? Come back in 10 minutes, or is that long enough for a smoke? 15?